All right, this is Delegate David Reed. Let's go ahead and call the meeting of the Small Business Commission to order. And I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning. And we're going to have a plan to maybe get done by about 11. But we have the room until 12. So let's try to have an efficient meeting. Right now, I believe that the first thing that we have to do is we have the call to order, and we've done that, and we'll do the election of the chair. And oh yes, thank you, Lindley. Let's go ahead and do the roll call first. So go ahead with the staff, please.
Senator Head, Senator Bagby, Senator Hackworth, Senator Mulcahy, Delegate Oates. Here. She's here. Mulcahy's here. Delegate Reed.
Here.
Delegate Srinivasan. Delegate Thomas.
Here.
Delegate Converse Fowler. Delegate Wright.
Here.
Delegate Lee Vogler.
Here.
Harshad Barrow.
Here.
Thomas Leonard.
Here.
Giuseppe Lanzone.
Here.
Jay Atkinson. Melissa Ball. Here. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right, fantastic. So now we will open up for nominations for the election of chair.
I nominate Delegate Reed.
All right, thank you very much, Delegate Thomas. Is there a second? And there's a second. So are there any other nominations for the position of chair of the Small Business Commission? All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right, thank you very much. And as the new chair, I will now entertain nominations for the position of vice chair, which I believe tradition, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is usually if the chair is a delegate, then the vice chair is a senator. Okay, so do we have a senator who would like to be nominated for the position of vice chair?
It's you, Senator. It looks like I'm the only senator here. Someone who's not here.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll nominate Senator Mulcahy.
All right, there's a nomination for Senator Mulcahy. There's a second. All right, and all those in favor, please indicate. Are there any other nominations? Okay, there are no other nominations. Then Senator Mulcahy, let's go ahead and have a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Senator Mulcahy, welcome and thank you to being the vice chair of the Small Business Commission. What I'd like to do now, because we've already had the introduction of the new members, I'm going to have DLS give us a kind of an overview of what the electronic meetings policy needs to be and what we need to follow for here today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So to get us started, I just want to go over and bear with me because it's a little lengthy. But the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2, 3708.3 requires all public bodies to adopt a policy regarding remote participation by members and all virtual meetings. And so I'm just going to go over the range of options that FOIA allows, and then you all can let me know if you would like to allow this public body to allow the full range of options, or if you would like to limit it in any way. So for individual members of a public body, you may use remote participation instead of attending a public meeting in person, as long as if in advance of the public meeting, the public body has adopted a policy, which is what we're doing now, and the member notifies the public body chair of one of four different reasons that they can't attend. So the first one is that the member has a temporary or permanent disability or other medical condition that prevents the member's physical attendance. The second is a medical condition of a member of the member's family requires that member to provide care for the person, and that prevents their physical attendance, or the member is a caregiver who must provide care for a person with a disability at the time the public meeting is being held, thereby preventing the member's physical attendance. The third reason, the member's principal residence is more than 60 miles from the meeting location. And the fourth reason is the member is unable to attend the meeting due to a personal matter However, they also must identify with specificity the nature of that personal matter. That last reasoning may not be used more than 2 meetings per calendar year or 25% of the meetings held per calendar year, rounded up to the next whole number. These are the different types of reasonings that can be used for individual remote participation. A public body may also use all virtual public meetings as a method of meeting, which means exactly what I said. You may meet completely all virtually. However, there are a number of different methods that must be followed under FOIA. And I'll just outline a few of those. They have to indicate in the meeting notice whether the meeting will be in person or all virtual, provide the public access via electronic communication means, make sure that the public can hear and see the public body members at all times, provide all meeting agendas and documents electronically at the same time that those documents are provided to the public body members, make sure that if public comment is customarily received, that the public can comment electronically. No more than 2 members of the public body can gather in a remote location together unless that location is also open to the public. You have to follow all closed session procedures as outlined in 2.23712. You're also limited when it comes to all virtual public meetings to no more than 2 times per calendar year, or 50% of the meetings held per calendar year rounded up to the next whole number. And you also cannot hold another all virtual public meeting consecutively with one that you just held. And lastly, the minutes of the meeting have to be taken and include that the meeting was virtual and the type of electronic communication means that were used. These are just some of the requirements of FOIA for both remote participation by individual members of a public body as well as all virtual public meetings. So I guess, Mr. Chair, my question for you all is if you would like to allow the full range of what FOIA allows for this public body for remote participation in all virtual public meetings, or if you would like to limit it in any way.
Okay, thank you very much for reviewing that. What I want to do now is I'm going to take an opportunity, and I'm going to start with myself, and then I'm going to go to my right, and then I'll go to the left, is to actually have an introduction of all of the members and kind of provide some background on yourself and your time that you've spent on the Small Business Commission or your experience as in the business community here within the Commonwealth. And then later, after we get done with that, then we'll have an update from Director Roth, and then we can kind of have an open forum and discussion about how we want to go about approaching legislation for the upcoming session, because it is now August, and there is already legislation that's being drafted, and people can be able to provide some input on that. Yes, Lindley?
Before you do that, could you all take a vote on the virtual policy?
Okay, do we just vote on it as it was presented?
Unless you want to amend it in any way.
Correct.
Okay, so does anybody have any concerns or issues that they want to amend with the policy? Okay, yes, Delegate Thomas.
Just a point of clarification. So the current policy, if just to distill it down, is in person and virtual, or is just in person?
Currently, Mr. Chair, Delegate Thomas, so unless you adopt a virtual policy, then you can only meet in person. So without this policy, we would be limited to in-person meetings only.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other points of clarification? Anybody want to make any changes to the policy other than just continuing to have in-person meetings? Okay, is there a motion to accept the policy as it was presented?
So moved.
There's a motion, there's a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Could we do a roll call on that?
We can do a roll call if you would like. Okay, we'll do a roll call on that.
Senator Head, Senator Bagby, Senator Hackworth, Senator Mulcahy,
Yes.
Delegate Oates,
Yes.
Delegate Reed,
Aye.
Delegate Srinivasan, Delegate Thomas,
Yes.
Delegate Converse Fowler, Delegate Wright,
Yes.
Lee Vogler,
Yes.
Harshad Barrow,
Yes.
Thomas Leonard,
Yes.
Giuseppe Lanzone,
Yes.
Jay Atkinson, Melissa Ball.
Yes.
Ayes 10, no 0.
All right, thank you very much. So now we're going to go to the back to the introductions, and then Director Roth, when we're done with that, then we'll proceed with your update. So for those of you who have not actually had a chance to meet, I'm Delegate David Reed. I have now served in the House of Delegates for 7 years. I currently am on the House Appropriations Committee, Privileges and Election, and serve as the Vice Chair of the Transportation Committee. In addition to that, prior to this current role, I had served for the chair of the Manufacturing Development Commission for, I think, about 2 or 2.5 years, and so I bring that experience to this as well. And then I think probably the important thing for the Small Business Commission is that I've spent about 35 years working in the Northern Virginia business community and have worked for companies as small as 30 or 35 people, and also for large corporations like AT&T and British Telecom. And I think in the entire time that I've done this, I've probably worked in 7 different unique industries, including banking, training, counterterrorism, business development, strategic planning, and I'm sure I'm leaving out something. But that's the experience that I bring to this role, and look forward to being able to work with all of you as we have a chance to talk later. Again, one of the things that I think that we need to begin discussions now is what type of legislation that we want to see introduced and advocated for when we go into the 2025 session. So it's better to have those discussions now than it is to wait until November or December, because as many of you know, and I'm not sure exactly what the rules are in the Senate, but in the House, we're limited to 15 pieces of legislation. And a lot of those legislative slots are already getting filled up by things from constituents and advocacy groups. So if there's something that we as the Small Business Commission want to be able to put forward, then we need to start having those discussions now. So I will now go to Senator Mulcahy.
I'm Senator Tammy Mulcahy, and I have been a senator for all of 8 months. I serve on Agriculture, Transportation, and Privileges and Elections. I started my first small business when I was 18 years old. That was like 2 years ago. No. That small business is still thriving with my ex-husband. I've had a retail business before that I passed down to my daughter. It's still thriving in Clarksville. I served on the Clarksville Town Council. I'm now a independent contractor as a real estate agent. I own a home building. I'm a Class A contractor. I build homes. And I have a nonprofit for domestic violence victims, which is my passion. But my whole life, I've also been in banking before, but my whole life I've been an entrepreneur and a small business owner.
All right, thank you, Senator.
Hi, I'm Dolores Oates. I serve the 31st District in the House of Delegates. I am also a freshman. And prior to that, I served in local government. I was on the Board of Supervisors, so I understand small business as it relates to local government decisions and how difficult it can be sometimes for small business startups. I also, for the last 30 years, have worked in the business industry in Northern Virginia. I've been an IT recruiter for just about every government subcontractor, federal government subcontractor. I exaggerate, but I've worked in businesses as large as Lockheed Martin and Booz Allen, and now my current passion is supporting small business and helping them leverage the staffing that they need through people like me who are contract recruiters, and I manage a staff to do that. I am very honored to be here to serve in the small business community. It is a passion for me, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Delegate Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Delegate Josh Thomas. I represent District 21, which is Western Prince William County. I sit on general laws, courts of justice, and public safety. And my day job is I'm a commercial real estate attorney. I have represented small businesses that are just mom and pop in the leasing capacity, all the way up to the nation's 5th largest grocer across the United States. I've worked across different asset classes as well, whether it's multifamily, industrial, or just general commercial and retail properties. I've seen very much in Virginia how small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and excited to be here to see what we can do for them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And
Hi, good morning.
Yes, we've not had a chance to meet, but please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, good morning. My name's Tom Leonard. I run a food store in Shore Pump at Tom Leonard's Farmers Market. I'm thrilled to be here today. I almost feel like I have to get a picture taken for my wife because she won't believe I'm sitting here. Very, very happy to bring the experience that I have to this. Prior to opening Tom Leonard's, I was the president of Stu Leonard's up in Danbury, Connecticut, and Fortune Top 100 Best Companies to Work For in America, and we have the highest sales per foot of any store in the world. And we have 3,000 people, which, it's really interesting with, all the costs skyrocketing now in order to, keep everything going. So I'm thrilled to be here today, and thank you.
Thank you for being here. And go ahead.
Hi. My name is Lee Vogler. I'm a member of the Danville City Council. I was first elected in 2012. I also run a local marketing and media company in our area that we are a small business, but we also work with hundreds of small businesses across our region. So I'm very familiar with the challenges that small businesses face and hear from it also from others every single day. And I've been a member of the Small Business Commission for the past 2 years. And as an elected official on City Council, small businesses have always been a very passionate issue for me and something that I've fought for, whether it was eliminating the license fee for our small businesses or a number of other things. I understand, as was already stated, that small businesses are the backbone of a local economy, and they're truly the heartbeat of any community. And so I think what we are doing here is very important, and I'm honored to serve on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee, for being here. And we'll now go to Delegate Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tommy Wright, represent the 50th District, which includes my home county of Lunenburg, most of Prince Edward, all of Charlotte, the northern half of Halifax, and all of Mecklenburg. I bring experience to the Small Business Commission from my time in the grocery business. My family started the grocery business in 1968 on property that was left to us by my father's father, and we started from the ground up. And he was an engineer on the Virginian Railroad, served as a fireman on a steam locomotive. So he had no business experience. But with the help of the Small Business Administration, we actually got our loan to open our business from the Small Business Administration because the banks wouldn't finance it. The Small Business Administration, they would guarantee the loan, basically. And so that's the experience I've had writing the payroll checks and dealing with the issues that come up in small business. I served on the Lunenburg County Board of Supervisors for 7 years, and then I was elected to the House of Delegates, and this next session will be my 25th session. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed serving on the Small Business Commission, and I look forward to further service on it. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you, Delegate Wright. And now, Mr. Lanzone. Did I get that right?
You got it spot on. Good morning. Thanks for having me here. My name is Giuseppe Lanzone, originally from Lima, Peru. I immigrated here on October 5th, 1997, straight from a small beach town in Lima to McLean, Virginia. Cultural shock, indeed. After attending McLean High School for 4 years, I excelled in the sport of rowing. I was granted a full scholarship at the University of Washington in Seattle. And after getting my citizenship, I was able to represent the U.S. in the 2008 Olympics and the 2012 Olympics for the sport of rowing. After coming back from the Olympics in 2012, my brother and I started a small business called Peruvian Brothers, a small food truck in the Northern Virginia area. After now 11 years, we have 4 food trucks, 2 restaurants, one in the bottom level of Amazon HQ2, a catering company that does private and corporate catering, and a few government contracts as well. Now we employ over 50 people, full-time jobs, and I'm looking forward to bringing the experience that I've acquired in the past let's say, since 1997 to the Small Business Commission here in Virginia. Thank you.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. And Ms. Ball?
Hello, I'm Melissa Ball. I am a local business owner in Henrico County. I own Ball Office Products. We're commercial furniture and supplies, and I own CPD and Company as well. It's home sports and billiards. Well, I guess we're part of the backbone down here that you all were referencing. I spend a lot of time with the Doorways. It's a local not-for-profit that I chair, and I'm on the board of the Virginia Council of CEOs as well as the NFIB Virginia Leadership Council, and Ball Office Products is also a GSA schedule holder. So we service Virginia, but also military locations worldwide.
Thanks very much. And Mr. Barat?
Yes, Harshad Barat. Well, first of all, thank you so much for all your time. My name is Harshad Barat. I came to this country in 1983. I was working as a busboy for the Marriott Hotel in Gaithersburg, Maryland. My second job was a car wash. I was working for the car wash. So I know what kind of struggle we have in the small business. Today, me and my family, we own about several hotels in Virginia Beach, and we employ about 30 to 35 people. 2013 to 2020, when I was appointed as a Minority Business Council for the City of Virginia Beach. Currently, I serve on Virginia Beach Resort Advisory Board, Virginia Beach Hotel and Motel Association. I serve on Town Bank, Fort Smith and Suffolk Branch Board. I also serve on Virginia Asian Advisory Board, and I just want to thank Governor Youngkin to have a faith in me. And we all know that what we are going through for the small business right now. Having said that, the cost of operation, the cost of utilities, and other cost, labor cost has gone up. So it is a tough time for the small business. And like Mr. Lee said, small business is the backbone of economy, any economy. So I'm glad that I belong to this board, and I'm here to help. And whatever I can, whichever way I can help, I'm here. And I want to thank you for the opportunity.
So thank you all for taking the time to do the introductions and to be here today. I think we can say that both the Speaker and Senate leadership and the Governor have done a good job of being able to actually appoint people to this commission who have experience in the business community that would be able to help be able to address the needs of small businesses. One of the things that I would like to just add, and then we'll get to Director Roth's presentation, is if you haven't seen it yet, the Inc. 5000 report came out for the fastest growing companies in the nation, and Virginia had 205 of those companies on there. And so I would encourage you to take a look at it and see how each one of your different areas was able to fare in that ranking. And I think that's one of those things that we can use as a measuring stick to be able to go, okay, what can we do to make it be 206 or 210 in the next year? So with that, now that we've done the introductions and we've done all of the administrative items, I'd like to welcome Director Carrie Roth to provide us with an update on the Virginia Department of Workforce Development, which was, I know, something that was a big effort that we went through. I think it was last year or year before last, and it was something that I believe was about 30 years in the making and finally was able to get accomplished. So thank you, Director Roth.
Well, good morning, and thank you all so much. We were talking earlier this morning that the first time I presented last fall, we were actually the first meeting that was held in the new General Assembly building. I think maybe appropriations beat us just by a minute or two, but exciting to believe. But a lot has happened since that time, including Virginia Works is what we publicly call the Department of Workforce Development and Advancement, because we really want to make sure that everybody knows that Virginia works for everyone. And so we officially went live as an agency on July 1. So from October of last year until July, we had a huge number of folks that were working with us to collaborate across agencies to do our own startup, which was a historic thing for many folks in the Commonwealth who had never started a new agency, but we were also a merger of sorts, bringing programs from various agencies into a new agency. And so it really was a tremendous team effort, and there's still a lot of work to do, but to be live is really great. We have about 350 team members, and I also always appreciate being in this with this commission. Prior to being recruited to turn around the VEC by Governor Youngkin, I had supported emerging technology companies and had my own companies, and so I always appreciate the perspective of the Small Business Commission, and those are the entrepreneurial principles that I apply to our agency and how we do things, and so really making sure that we have that mindset and keep the customer at the center of everything that we do, and when you do that, everything becomes easy because you're very focused on outcomes, which is making sure that all Virginians have the opportunity for a job. And I don't see my presentation. That's all right. Okay. But
Director Roth, do you just want us to, I think we all
you can
have
just
hard
go, you all
copies.
have copies? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we want everyone else to be able to see it, but it's like, I think that we can
can keep
continue. If
going.
you've got a hard
Sure.
copy there in
Yep.
front of you,
Yep,
I think
me too.
we all can read along as you're going.
Right. Okay. So just last week, we released the July numbers. Our economic and information analytics teams released the monthly economic situation numbers for the Commonwealth. We have over 4.4 million employed Virginians, which is nearly 200,000 more Virginians employed since January of 2022. Our labor force participation rate is 66.1%, which has increased 1.8 points since January 2022. Our unemployment rate is at 2.7%, and it's been that way for the last 3 months. It's been at 2.7%. And then we just released our JOLTS numbers. So the JOLTS numbers, which are the job opening numbers, they trail a month behind the employment situation numbers, and we have 250,000 job openings. And really over the last 2.5 years, we have gone between 250 and 300,000 job openings in the Commonwealth. 250 is getting closer to where we're getting more aligned with job openings and people to fill those jobs. And then also the total non-farm payrolls for July reached 4.26 million jobs, which is a historic level for the Commonwealth. So the difference between employed and Virginians and job openings or jobs are the actual payroll jobs that companies in Virginia have or businesses do versus the employed that they're all Virginians. Next slide. So education health have led the industry growth across the Commonwealth, and there's 11 industry sectors that are tracked through our numbers. Over the year, 9 experienced over-the-year job gains, 1 remained unchanged, and 1 experienced a decline. The largest job gain occurred in education and health services, with nearly 25,000, and the second largest job gain occurred in professional and business services with plus 14,500 jobs. And then the third largest job gain occurred in government. I always like to say when we pick out a month to tell you all numbers about.
If you can just hold on just for a second. Okay, so I think we're now, I'm hoping that you can see it. We're now on the right slide where you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
So when you see year-over-year change or I talk about a specific month, it's really important to watch for trends and not exactly what happens in a month, because while there are seasonalities to these numbers, they're all adjusted for the seasonality. You still want to make sure that you are looking at trends and not a specific month, but this is what we have seen in our July numbers. Going to looking at where our job growth, I think the great thing to see is that all localities or MSAs across the Commonwealth experienced year-over-year job growth or about stayed the same. So it's really great to see that we are very evenly distributed amongst everybody, continuing to have that job growth. Obviously, Northern Virginia has the highest growth with their high-wage occupations in more professional services and tech jobs over the last year. And then Richmond and then the Hampton Roads area followed in third place. But to really see all of these MSAs to have some job growth, so it's evenly distributed. And then why Virginians were not working in June of 2024. These surveys are done at the end of the month, and if you will see that we continue to see I am retired to be leading by significant numbers of why people are not working. Of those reporting why they are not working, gave a reason, over nearly 50% of them because they are retired. And so these are obviously many people that are part of the huge baby boom demographic reaching retirement age, with retirees numbering 1.1 million in Virginia of why they were retired in this survey. Illness or disability was the second most commonly reported reason. That's 14% versus almost 50%. And then child care, or that your child was either not in school or in daycare and you were taking care of them. Mindful that this was from the June survey, so we're ending at the end of the school year as well, for 9% of why Virginians were not working. So if we're looking at establishments by employment size, that you will see our under 50 employees continues to separate itself. We are just releasing numbers today for the Q1 2024, which has, out of all the establishments that we have in the Commonwealth, there are just over 303,000. That 300,000, 141 of those are 49 or fewer employees. So we really continue to see this growth. We also had 10,000 more establishments between last year and this year for Q1 2023 to Q1 2024. And then also, if you want to look at the rural areas of where we see the difference between establishments in the non-metropolitan areas, that Virginia establishments with fewer than 20 employees comprise 27% of rural employment, but only 18% statewide. So small business obviously is significant in the Commonwealth, but even increasingly more significant in the rural areas. And then also, if you want to look at the 5-year growth areas, we see that establishments with fewer than 5 employees rose by 11%, while those with 1,000 or more rose by 23% over the last 5 years. Obviously, we saw during the pandemic, we had a bifurcation of the smallest versus the largest, and we have seen the mid-sized firm start to have some growth in this area, but really the continue to see that small business numbers are just the strength or the backbone of, and all of you all sitting up here, part of that. And then also, I should have put this slide, I apologize, I should have followed logically about why people were not working, but how did they payroll workers leave jobs in June of 2024? And you will see of the 142,000 total job separations, that 60% of those were quits. We have hovered around 100,000 quits a month that people have just decided that they are going to quit their job and go do something different because they continue to see and have confidence that they can go and find another job, or go to another job that's paying a different wage or has some different flexibilities. But there's great confidence, and really that we are seeing some closer to normalization around this, but really 60% of this is associated with labor market strength, that people really feel that they can go and find that next job, and that we have seen that low numbers of layoffs continue to drive this. It's really people making choices for their own activities. And then also small businesses from the NFIB's report in July of 2024. Small businesses continue to have challenges with hiring individuals. Their optimism index rose 2.2 points in July, their highest reading since February of 2022. However, it's still the 31st consecutive month below the 50-year average of 98. Inflation remains the top issue among small business owners, with 25% reporting it as their single most important problem in operating their business, which was up 4 points from June. And then Virginia applications in July, you continue to see that our applications for companies have started up. Small businesses have doubled while corporate applications have changed little. And I would just note the pink line is the high propensity business applications, which means they're likely to add more employers. And then the just general business applications are those, the orange line. So by and large, you have a lot. If you go back to the breaking down the numbers of establishments, the vast majority of those are really those 10 and fewer. And so we really see a lot of people. I would have been myself when I had my own company. I was just doing my own thing for myself and working how I wanted, where I wanted. And so I think you see a lot of that activity. But, we continue to see those increase applications, and really it's a trend over the last 16 years. So it was really those that are starting jobs and they're not planning on having a payroll, which means they also have strength and confidence in the marketplace that if it doesn't work out, they can go find a job as well. We just released in May the 2023 occupational and employment wage statistics. And so from these numbers, you can see the top 5 major occupations in employment in the Commonwealth around office and administrative support, business and financial operations, sales and related, food preparation and serving related, and transportation and material moving. These are, and from this, we can also then go and see our wages that are around this. With the most common detailed occupations and the wages that go along with it, from the software developers and general operation managers obviously leading those wages. And then you have the other prevailing occupations that trail in their wages. And with that, Mr. Chair, I conclude my update, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you all may have.
So thank you. So here on the document it says director, and there it says commissioner. What's the right title?
As of July 1, it's commissioner.
Okay, I apologize then.
That's okay. Titles
right.
don't matter. It mattered more. We have a lot of folks in our agency that have titles as director, and it was very confusing to people who the agency head was. So the legislation you all passed with our cleanup bill changed it to commissioner. So
okay, very
titles
good.
don't
All right,
matter. Just
Commissioner
getting
Roth.
the work done.
So what I'd like to do, because Delegate Fowler just arrived, and I'm going to put her on the spot, because what I did before everybody else got started is I gave everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves and to share what district they're from and their experience in the background. And then what that will do is that will allow everyone else the opportunity to think about what questions that they would like to ask of Commissioner Roth. Because the way that I like to run meetings is I will take questions from everyone else here on the panel, and then I will save whatever I have for last. So if you have questions, then start thinking about those, but we'll go with the introduction with Delegate Fowler first.
Thank you, Chair Reed. I appreciate that. I am Delegate Kelly Converse Fowler. I represent the 96th District in Virginia Beach. I am a small business owner. I have a real estate firm. I've also been an educator and a legislator and a mother and all those other titles. Mr. Chair, would it be appropriate to ask a question now, if there's anyone else to?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I was wondering and I know I just came in, so I apologize, but I had a couple questions on the slides.
Sure.
On Mr. Chair, on the top 5 major occupations by employment, it doesn't have a page number. I was just wondering if there were any monetary figures attached to that amount, Mr. Chair, like if this represents this much of the economy, this much money, this much salary, this much, anything like that. And accordingly, with the other page, is there a correlation on the second page after that with those fields that we can kind of correlate what that meant in revenue sense and Mr. Chair, if that makes sense?
So I think that this is this.
Right.
Okay.
So, so the top 5 major occupations are the overall occupations, right? So they're in the larger groups. And then the most common detailed occupations mean those are broken down within those larger sectors. So those wages are, out of those sectors, the most common detailed occupations, if that makes sense. So they are a subset of that larger 5. And if you would like, we can follow up and get those numbers that go with those.
So just to clarify, I think Delegate Fowler was perhaps asking, is there a macro level economic number that says that within office and administrative support that actually contributes this amount to the overall GDP of Virginia? Is that correct, Delegate Fowler?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's
okay. So if you can follow up with,
I'll follow up with that information. Thank you for that question.
Okay. Other questions from members of the commission? Don't be bashful. Go ahead, Ms. Ball, because otherwise I will ask questions.
Okay. I have just a couple for you. Thank you for your efforts of your team and all the information you gave us today. One question about categories. When government and education, I think it's the second slide, does government include municipalities, state, local, and Fed all lumped together?
They're all
and then
together.
In education and health services, are those public and private schools? Does it include K through 12, higher ed, all that?
They do, yes.
So then the health services side of it is like the medical industry, or?
Yeah, it's anybody. Yes, it's a larger, health services is more than just kind of health care. It's a little bit of a broader capturing of all of those in the care economy type positions.
Okay, thanks. Then the only other question I have for you was on the Virginia Business Applications chart that you have. I see that the source is the Census Bureau. Do we have an idea of how many of those may have come through maybe One Stop with SBSD? Is One Stop still active? Or how many of those are we generating through our own assistance portals?
I will ask the director of that agency to see how many come through the Business One Stop. I do know that it is still active. Okay. I was actually helping my colleague who was doing some work for the Virginia Chamber the other day, the agency had there. And so Morris and we'll follow up and see if they know how many people are using the One Stop.
Great, thanks.
I'm going to go down here to Councilmember Vogler?
Vogler, yes,
okay,
sir.
Him, and then we'll go with Delegate Thomas. Go ahead, question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had one question from the early slide. It shows labor force participation at 66.1%, which was an increase 1.8 points since January of 2022. How does that compare to the pre-COVID numbers of labor force participation?
Right, it's still a significant increase. We had been at a 10-year high in labor force participation rate. We continue to see the challenges, as you saw, like the quit numbers and you saw the retirement numbers. We continue to see a labor force challenge. And I think probably all of you all know this. We know this as an agency trying to hire folks, that we continue to see how we're getting folks off of the sidelines and back to work. And that's why we have very targeted work that we're doing around getting folks back into the labor force. The governor had his big prisoner reentry announcement last week, which we have been a significant part of helping people, making sure when they're reentering that we can get them back fully employed at good wage jobs that will be not just that job, but is a job that really will help carry them through. We've also been working with social services to make sure that we're helping to target and lift up upward mobility for those individuals who are in there. We're at Goodwill. We've had a significant amount of work that we've been doing with Goodwill and many agencies to really help find different ways that we can remove barriers to help people get back to work. And so it is really that labor force participation that we are trying to increase and make sure that we get everybody who wants a job the skills that they need, and that's part of what we do through Virginia Works.
Delegate Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 questions for Commissioner Roth, if that's all right. Thank you. Commissioner Roth, good morning. I wanted to draw attention to the slide of why Virginia residents were not working in June 2024. I wanted to know, and I know this is a U.S. Census provided number, not necessarily one that y'all created, but for the IM/was sick or disabled category, do we know if that's people who are confirmed with a permanent disability and so therefore really can never enter the workforce, or is that people that have a temporary disability? Just wanted to know if you had any additional information on that.
Those are individuals who answered the question that's why they were not working. So it doesn't go any more granular than that. We don't have that more detailed information, but that is their reason that they provide amongst the reasons that are asked.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And then the next one would be Virginia establishments by employment size. I really, really love this chart. Thank you so much for breaking it down between the under 50, 50 to 500, and 500 above. Just wanted to get your opinion for the line that is under 50 employees, particularly with respect to quarters, the first quarter for 2020, 21, and 22. So we had the pandemic going on, and we can definitely see the dip down from the 50 to 500 employees. But we still had pretty, what I would call great increases for the under 50 employees. Just wondering if you could expand on that just a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Mr. Chair, Delegate Thomas, I think that's what in the numbers that we even saw from that'll be released out today, that we continue to see that growth in that area, and that we just, the large employers are just experiencing flat growth, and more people are deciding to start their own business or to work for a smaller business. So there's no emotion attached to why folks are making these decisions. It's just that these are the numbers that we have.
Okay. And then the final question is on the how did Virginia payroll workers leave jobs in June 2024 slide. Mm-hmm. For the middle bar graph quits, do we know if that's quitting for another, I guess my question is that data capture people who quit for another job or just quit the labor force entirely?
Why they left their job is mostly they're job switchers. So it's not necessarily, otherwise you would find them that they would be in a layoff or in other occupations, or other situations. Some of them may continue to not work, but those are those who indicate that they just weren't happy with their job and just felt they could find something else. So it wasn't a layoff impacted decision.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much, Delegate Thomas. Is anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Roth, I know that I had a nursing home in my, they call them something else now, rehab center in my district that was having trouble with finding RNs to meet the federal and state requirements that they have for the mandates that they have for hiring. And I called Mr. Reedy, and I'm a new member of the Workforce Development Board. So I called him to see what the solutions were for them, and he's working with them. But can you tell me a little bit about what you all are doing as far as training, workforce development training, and kind of tell us all how that works in developing a workforce for those areas that are lacking? Like I know in my construction company, there are no plumbers in rural Virginia. I actually have like one plumber I can go to for my new builds. So can you tell us just a little bit about that and how that works?
Sure, thank you. So there's a couple of different areas that I'll address around healthcare. In particular, when there was prior to the pandemic, when there were plentiful workers in healthcare industry, and there was a shift of what the credentials were needed, and you saw a lot of folks that were then employed at the rehab centers, et cetera, that were not working in the hospitals. So there was a broader stroke of employees that could fill all of those jobs. After the pandemic and the crunches on the hospitals, you saw a shift back that put pressure of looking at, okay, we've got to look at credentialing differently. And I think that's what everybody is looking at, is even if you're thinking about, okay, do we actually really need somebody with a 4-year degree for this job, or do they have the skills to do this job? And so there's a realignment of employers and how they're looking at what the credentials are, what you need, and those barriers. And so we have focused on in the Blue Ridge Partnership is an example of this, and I know Southern Virginia has their healthcare partnership too, that they have started up around, okay, how do we come together as a region and address the needs that we have? And they are employer-led regional partnerships. And so we have been working with the Claude Moore Institute and others to see how do we address this, not only in healthcare, but also if you look at the oral healthcare with dentists, dental hygienists, and the dental assistants, how can we get more students that are in high school to be able to do this? And it's a broad-based look that you have to look at these, because what are the actual capacities, say, at the community colleges for the dental hygienist program? Those program numbers are going down. So the capacity for the need, we're trying to align and working with all of the partners to how do you address those to make sure that we can help scale up those areas. And so that is an area in particular in the non-traded sectors of really trying to look at how do we provide frameworks to help the regions being led by their employers come together to address these training needs. And we come alongside, making sure that we're addressing the needs of business, because they need to build the curriculum versus somebody just saying, this is what we think. We need to know what business actually needs and align those together. And so workforce development is a very complex system, and the services that we provide, it's usually not one organization or one person that has a touch to be able to effectively address the needs in any area or for one individual. So it is definitely a team sport, and we're all trying to address these needs for this shortage. But you're not alone in that. You could ask anybody in any region of the Commonwealth, and everybody's having those same pressures. Obviously, registered apprenticeship, if you talk about the plumbers, we're really focused on registered apprenticeship, not only in the traditional skilled trades, but in other industries as well, including in healthcare.
Delegate Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rural Virginia is really struggling at this time, trying to draw industries into our area and increase the employment. One industry we have that is doing exceptionally well is Microsoft. We were very fortunate several years ago to get them, and they're just growing tremendously, and they're having a big problem with getting qualified people to work. And I want to know how is the workforce development working with the community college and Microsoft? I know there's an effort being made there, but if you could give us an update on how that is going so far as providing jobs for Microsoft and other cybersecurity industries and so forth in rural Virginia.
Yeah, Delegate Wright, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that question. I don't know the answer specifically for the Microsoft and what the community college is providing there, and I can find out and get an update for that. But I think what you're hearing is that it is not industry agnostic for labor force challenges. It is not one region of Virginia is having different challenges than the other. And that is what the complexity of this opportunity is, to be able to really align together, and each person that can help move an individual along that pathway to do that. We have had a lot of conversation around cybersecurity credentialing, and perhaps some ideas around how do we, grow those, but also you don't necessarily need a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree, but there are many pathways that will get you a start and then you credential up. And so that stacking of credentials is really important, and that pathway that goes along with it, and making sure that we have, all of those workers, in particular, that's the data center that's down there. There's data centers in this region. There's data centers in Northern Virginia. There's going to be data centers in Southwest Virginia. And so you can see those needs are prolific in working together to identify some of those shortages. And that's where these partnerships really come align and how we align them with industry sectors to address them holistically. So one person is not just doing a part of it, because it is a stackable credential. It is a pathway from K-12 to career and how all of these align. It's the importance of why we are using a lot of data, because we need to make these decisions driven on data and not just what we feel, but oftentimes what we're feeling right now is very aligned with what the data that we see.
A follow-up, please.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify one thing. So you're primarily talking not just about cybersecurity, but also just the broad range of data center technician type of positions that are needed at the Microsoft data centers down in Mecklenburg.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure, Commissioner Roth, that you understood that it was broader than just cybersecurity. Go ahead, Delegate Wright.
One thing you mentioned that we are trying to take advantage of is credentialing, because that will get those people in the workforce much quicker rather than a 4-year degree. And I think the community colleges are making a shift towards that, and that's what I was talking about. And I appreciate any ideas or concerns that you have or suggestions. We'd appreciate it, and thank you for the job that you do.
I will try to find it and I will send it out to everyone. But there was a really good article in the Wall Street Journal just this past week, I think, or so, that identified I think, almost 6-figure salaries that are being offered for people that are working in data centers. And I do not know that that is just unique to Northern Virginia. I think those salaries are probably applicable across the Commonwealth as well. And those do not require degrees, to your point. So I'll see if I can find that and get that sent out to everybody. Are there other questions? Yes, Delegate Fowler. And then Delegate Oates, did you have a question? Okay, Delegate Fowler and then Delegate Oates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question about the slide that says why Virginians were not working, that slide. Just had a question.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, when I look at this, it's like, well, the people who aren't going to be working because they're retired or there's a decision been made. When I look at the highest number is childcare, which seems to be the highest number of people who want to work, but maybe there's some people, they're not retired, they're not disabled, they're actually, it says childcare. And so does the department actually look at barriers like housing or like childcare or things like that in general when looking at workforce development, or is it strictly the educational piece, or is there collaboration that I'm not aware of? Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, Delegate Fowler. So great example of how that's being addressed is in Southwest Virginia and the partnerships there amongst the local Workforce Development Board and EO, which is a new organization that came out from the work that they did alongside many organizations, and they took an old Kmart and turned it into a facility where people not only can get training, but they also have childcare, and there's a whole wraparound program. So there are other organizations that are looking at it. Actually, in Northern Virginia, they're also looking at building a similar type of program that we have seen has been a kind of a model of how you can do things. So that is just launching and will be opening this year, and it's really exciting to see the momentum around that. But that would be a great example of an area that's addressing it multi-ways. There are, depending on the program that you're in and the services that provide and economic eligibilities for some of the training programs, we do provide childcare, or sister agencies provide the funding for childcare or transportation issues and all of those, that we try to remove those barriers to make sure that folks get those training. And I think a lot of people are actually also looking at, when you go back to the healthcare of, okay, what hours of the day are we training people? Are we really training people the hours where we can get them, or even the hours that you're working? So if you're training somebody during the day, but you know they're going to start their job in the middle of the night, like that's going to be when you start your first job and you're going to be working over the night shift. Well, people need to be okay with that's what you're going to be working and actually experience that before they've had certain structures that are built around and then they're switching. So there's, I think the if you take a big picture back, everybody's saying we have to do things differently. And we have to provide things differently if we're going to be able to get to the workforce that we need. And that's why there's so many different on-ramps and off-ramps to get people to their upward mobility and where we can go.
Thank you, Commissioner Roth. Delegate Oates?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, Virginia small businesses continue to have challenges in filling jobs, and what, do you have a breakout of the industry sectors where the highest demands are? I mean, obviously, healthcare, we know, is an area where they're struggling, but are there others, maybe, who has the highest demand, and is that broken out anywhere?
So, Mr. Chair, Delegate Oates, we actually have the high demand. I'm sure most of you all, if you're not aware, Virginia Office of Economic Education puts out in partnership with the Virginia Board of Workforce Development the high demand occupations list. And you can find the dashboard on the VOE website, but also along with that, it's statewide, it's broken down regionally. You can see what you need to do and the wages that you can earn, but it also states if this is a registered apprenticeship job, if this is a program through Fast Forward that you can get a credential through, if it is a program through G3 that you can get a credential through. So it shows you the pathways in order to go for those high demand jobs, and then it has the associated wages that go along with that. And I'll share out that link for everybody.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner, for that information.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions before I'll get to my question? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Ms. Commissioner, but not pertaining to this workforce, and if I may. Last session, we covered the workforce. This session, we covered the workforce. What are the other challenges? What are the other issues? What are the problems that small businesses are facing in Commonwealth, like working capital, permitting, licensing? Can we work on those things?
Mr. Chair and Mr. Broad, that's outside of, I can give you my personal opinion. That's outside of what I should be speaking on behalf of the governor's office. So I just want to make sure that I don't want to just give my personal opinion on that.
No, I understand.
So that's not your subject. I'm sorry. I wasn't too sure because we want to know exactly that workforce is very important in small business. But at the same time, working capital, financing, getting the permit, getting the license, those are also big issues for small businesses.
Absolutely.
I think, Mr. Barat, I think what you have done is you have probably gotten us closer to like number 5 in our agenda, which is what are the things that we are going to want to have.
Running ahead a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. But that's good planning for what we will want to be doing as far as who we want to invite next. So are there any other questions? And if there aren't, then I have, Mr. Leonard.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, and thank you. I just had a question. I'm looking at the increase in the small businesses, and I'm looking at the quit numbers that are there. My question is if a person picks up a part-time job, does that count as a new one? And if they transition to another job, does that count as the quit? Or how do you figure that out? I don't know if a person's, I mean, everybody's a little tight these days, so I find that they're coming in and looking for part-time jobs, and then they might stop. We keep them active, but they usually come back. But does that show up in this at all, or?
So the question, when they ask that question of if you quit or not, does not necessarily mean that you had a full-time. It doesn't break down the type of job, if it was a full-time or a part-time job. So that was just your activity for if you were working, if you left your job, why you left your job. So there's a lot of work that we're doing with around the Workforce Data Quality Initiative to try to get more detailed information that breaks down more of this to Virginia-specific numbers than what is currently available. Because you all are asking these questions, we're asking these questions, and the more data that we can get, now it's going to, we also have to rely on our employers who provide this information to make sure that all this information is provided. And so if somebody reaches out to you and calls you, please make sure that you provide that information. But also, those that, a lot of this, not the census information, but other information comes from those who are the UI database because they're paying unemployment insurance taxes. So There's a lot of ways that we get this data, but it's not specific to the full-time or part-time job. It was a long answer to tell you that. I'm sorry for that.
All right, Commissioner Roth, and thanks everybody for your questions and everything. I'm going to wrap up with a couple questions, and some of these are things that you may not have the answer to, and if that's the case, then if you can just follow up and let us know. And then I'm going to forewarn you that I'm going to ask you one at the end that's really very loaded, so we'll go from there. So on slide 2, and these are all on slide 2, where you identify that there are nearly 200,000 more Virginians employed since January 2022. Do you have any data that breaks that down between how many of those are COVID recovery, meaning people going back to work that had jobs prior to the pandemic, and people that would be new coming into the workforce?
Don't, because these are monthly surveys.
Okay.
And so they're asked of individuals each month. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we then ask them when you were working or not working, but are you employed? And so.
Okay, so we don't have that degree of granularity. Okay, all right, thank you. And the bottom one that you have down there, job openings, where it's 250,000 job openings in June. And there's a couple questions in there. One is, do you know what industry has the largest number of openings? Because I know that at one point in time, anecdotally, we had heard that there were 30,000 cyber IT-related jobs opening across the Commonwealth that all had a potential wage of $80,000 to $100,000. And so therefore, going back to kind of Delegate Fowler's question, you could then put an economic value on those things. So do you have data that indicates of the 250,000, how many are in like what type of industry and what would be the potential economic benefit of being able to fill those jobs?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so the JOLTS numbers, while we have specific numbers of job openings, et cetera, for the state level, it's not broken down by industry. It's broken down at the national level by industry. And so when we talk about what those job openings are, that's because people are spidering and grabbing that information from whether it's Indeed or whether it's Microsoft's jobs board or whatever, that's where you're getting those aggregate numbers to be able to get to those.
Okay, and then that kind of takes me to my last question, which I recognize is kind of a loaded question because I'm asking you whether or not we as elected officials are, and even the governor's office, are doing the right thing, which is that based upon those openings, do we have an ability to be able to say that the items that we're asking our colleges and community colleges to be able to teach and provide instruction in are actually mappable to those most frequently job openings, and are we taking the right legislative initiatives to be able to help to fill those jobs? Because again, I think one of the things that we have all recognized is that if we fill those jobs, then most of the times those jobs come with retirement benefits, healthcare benefits. That relieves pressure on government services, but it also creates the opportunity to create wealth and generational wealth for those individuals. So I just want to know if we can quantifiably identify that the openings that we identify, that we're doing the right things to help fill those openings. And part of that also goes to the question from Delegate Fowler about housing and the question about financing and other type of things as well. So it's an open-ended question. It's like, are we doing the right things to be able to help to fill all of these jobs?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, I think one of the items in the legislation that we had this past session as part of our cleanup bill, and you'll see some more work around this, was aligning programs, particular fast forward and G3, to the high demand occupation list. So that is what the information that drives what should be taught or the credentials that should be given through those programs. The high demand occupation list is released every 2 years, but there is information that we have that, because you don't want to constantly move that ball, but that's that information of where you get that alignment to. And I think that's the other thing that we're really trying to encourage everybody and see more alignment between the training programs and training to the high demand occupations list. That's a source of truth. It has been adopted by the Workforce Development Board. You can see the wages, you can see the demands of where things are going, and making sure that we're helping individuals with making those informed decisions.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Roth. I don't think that there are any other questions, and did you have one final question?
Yeah, it's just one
Go ahead.
comment. I noticed on the slide that's concerned why residents were not working, the largest category where I am retired. I remember back when I was involved in the grocery business, some of my best employees were retired people that actually retired to my store and come back to work. And that's a wonderful, when you get a person doing that, it's because they want to work, and they make some of the best workers. I wonder if there's any strategy to try to reach out to those people, or a way to connect those people with jobs that would be available for them.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Delegate Wright, thank you for that question. And I think that's, how do we reach those who have made those decisions? There are people that they're not retirement age, but they are retired. And so very mindful, even in my household, of that situation. So if folks who fit into that category. And so it's, we continue to see, I should have the comparison number, but between April and May, that number of I am retired went up 100,000. And I didn't do the comparison between May and June, but you can see that we continue to see that increase in growth. And obviously, you've got huge numbers, right? The baby boomers generation there are a lot of people in that generation, and so those numbers also account for how many folks are in that generation of why they're making those decisions. But I think that connectivity and seeing how maybe those folks could come back and work in different ways than the ways that they had worked before is opportunities for employers to draw.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner.
That's probably
Roth.
more of a loaded question than yours was.
That really is the last question. Thank you very much for your time here today, and anything that you can do to have made notes of the follow-up questions and get those to us, that would really be greatly appreciated. I hope that going forward, this is something where we've not scared you off and you're willing to come back, perhaps on a quarterly basis or something, to give us an update. Because again, I think that the information that you provide really helps to inform and educate the decisions that we need to be making, both as a commission and as legislators. So thank you very much for being here today.
Yes, thank you all so much for inviting me. I appreciate your time.
Okay, I think next on the agenda is discussion, upcoming session, issues for the commission. At some point in time, probably what we'll do is we'll go back out with the staff members asking for when we can meet again. It would be my intent that we do have another meeting before session because, again, I think it's really very important. I think we've already heard some of the things that we would like to hear about. One is small business financing. I think that would be one. I think Delegate Fowler talked about the impact of workforce and childcare, so those are a couple things that we should add onto the list. Are there other items that people would like to see us address in future commission meetings? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I sent it out yesterday, and I believe everybody, if you're wondering what this printout is that you may have at your desk, it came from a local small business owner in Danville. He owns several businesses, actually, but the context of this printout refers to a business I think Senator Mulcahy might be familiar with, called Crema and Vine in Danville. It's a great coffee and wine bar. They've been in business now for several years. In the interest of time, I won't read through this entire thing because I know everyone has it, but he's referencing the dealer discount that small businesses get on when they turn in the taxes collected to the state, and how maybe that formula needs to be revisited because of the abundance of folks who are paying now with credit cards, and what those fees mean for a small business. And so, he's calculating about 80% of his entire sales are now through credit cards, and so they're eating the cost of that. And so I think when some of these policies were put in place at the state level, it was probably at a time when folks were not using credit cards as frequently, and Again, so I would like for us, maybe, when we have more time now, everybody has this, to further discuss what he's suggesting in our upcoming meeting.
Yes, I was going to say, it's like, oh, there we go. Councilmember Vogler, that is something that I've had a constituent bring up recently as well, and the number that he used was that fully 95% of his transactions are now done via credit card, where it used to be about 5% maybe a decade or 2 decades ago. So it is something that I think is being brought to our attention by small businesses, and we need to look at. So I've added to the list. Delegate Thomas, I think you had a comment or a suggestion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There was a bill that came up kind of towards the end of last session that I think would be great to get more data on, specific to small businesses, and that would be changing the food beverage ratio. That is something I think we need more data on before we make a once in a decade or once in a generation change on something like that. Thank you.
You are correct. Just a second, I think Delegate Oates, as I was looking at this side, Delegate Oates, did you have something that you wanted?
I just wanted to say that I had a restaurant owner contact me about this exact issue, and that her taxes, if she pays, people pay by credit card, they're eating the 3% or 3.5%. Also, if there's a restaurant local tax,
yes,
that is an impact as well. So the local
very
tax.
much so.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is not just for the financing, the process. Sometimes there are some people, they want to do business and they have financing captured. The problem is process, permitting, licensing, and those are different issues with different cities. How can we work together to make the process faster, easier, and smoother, so that more people can do business in Commonwealth?
Okay, very good. I made a note of it. And thanks for the clarification. Ms. Ball, did you have?
Yes. Perhaps if we had Commerce and Trade address us in regards to what we were just speaking about, and not just Small Business Financing Authority, but the one-stop and the processes that we have that we can funnel through SBSD with general business assistance. I know it's changed a lot through the decades, from Department of Business Assistance to SBSD, and just where are we and how are we? I hear that SBFA is doing a lot of really good things with financing assistance, processing a lot more loans, understanding where that money comes from and how it's funded and who's eligible would be helpful.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that we're finding is that there's a lot of really good ideas, and we have a limited amount of time, especially between now and session. So one of the things I may ask the staff members to do, because I know that we're able to do the polling to be able to find out when people want to meet, is that we may do something along the lines of doing a poll as well to ask you to rank and rate these things, so that we can then as a commission make a decision kind of virtually about which one we want to address at our next session. So I'm just giving you all a heads up on that. Did you have something you wanted to add? Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with everything that everybody's saying here. This piece of paper is very important, especially as a small business. When I started 11 years ago, the ratio was about 70% cash, 30% credit cards. Now it's about 80% credit cards, 20% cash. And yes, we are the piggy bank for the state of just making sure everybody's paying taxes and paying taxes on time. So if we're paying taxes on time and we're doing the right job, we should be getting a dealer's kickback if you add. And adding to what you were saying about making small businesses' jobs easier. For example, the health departments, for us, we literally have to get a health permit for every single county that we have to go to, whether it's Alexandria, whether it's Fairfax, whether it's Loudoun, anywhere in Virginia. If we want to go vent into that place, sometimes we cannot go vent to that place because we don't have the specific health certificate for that place, even though we carry one that is for the state of Virginia, but just for, let's say, Alexandria or Arlington. We cannot go sell it in Fairfax because they require a different one. So something that is just one sticker, one paperwork for the state of Virginia, that it's saying that we're doing everything correctly.
Okay, thank you. And Delegate Wright, did you have something you wanted to add to a prospective agenda?
Well, just, I want to make a comment on this issue that was raised about the fee that was charged, the discount rate. And I've noticed a lot of businesses in the rural areas are starting to actually charge you for using your credit card. So that's an indication that it's really affecting the rural businesses, all businesses, because they actually charge you. It makes it inconvenient for the customer too. So as we look into this issue, we need to remember that it affects not only the business owner, but the customer, because they're paying for that fee.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else have any other ideas or suggestions that we can possibly consider for future meetings? Yes, Delegate Fowler.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I was going to say I serve on Labor and Commerce, and we had a really good presentation, Mr. Chair, last year that helped us understand a lot of these opportunities. That would be great to have that presentation here. And I think it was the SCC, and then I can't remember who, but there were several that were very good. And then, Mr. Chair, my question was just, is our goal to put together a legislative agenda that we would all approve of as a committee before session? I would hope. I was just curious if that's what we would.
I think our goal would be to have discussions about some of those things and possibly have some legislative initiatives. Again, I recognize that it's August and people are already drafting legislation. And I know it's hard to believe, but we are actually supposed to be part-time citizen legislators. So we'll work within those frameworks. But the idea, I think, would be to come up with some legislative initiatives and some things that we can get behind and support as a commission as we go forward. And I don't believe that it'll be all of these things because, again, and I know that you weren't here at the time, but I had started out by saying that we're each only allowed 15 pieces of legislation in the House, and I don't know how many you're allowed in the Senate. Yeah, okay. And we all have, while this is all something that is really very important and very passionate to us, I'm sure all of us have requests from constituents to deal with local constituent pieces of legislation as well. So we have to balance all of those demands. Okay, any other comments? Yes, Delegate Thomas.
Mr. Chairman, just a request that I know we have a lot of great ideas here, but my personal request would be if we could prioritize the topics that were already came up with legislation from this past session. If we could just address those first, since they're likely to come up again in 2025. I appreciate that.
Yep, very good. All right. Yes?
Can I ask the last question?
Yes, please.
I know we talk about finance, we talk about other stuff, but how about the property insurance? How about the property insurance? Because insurance has gone up by almost 25 to 30%.
You're talking about real estate?
Any business, like restaurant business or hotel business or any small business, what you were paying last year, now you're paying almost 20% more for this year because they have increased the premium to 20 to 30%.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Without any reason. Like there was no hurricane, there was no unforeseen scene that, and there was no too many claim. But the insurance companies are charging almost like 20% more compared to last year. So
I'll add that to the list.
Please.
Okay, good. All right, I think we'll stop there, and then I wanted to ask the staff whether or not we have any public comment that needs to be read or reported to the commission.
If you can announce if anyone
Does anyone here have any public comments that they want to make to the commission? Okay. No one here wants to? Do we have anything that might have come in online? Nothing at all. Okay, so thanks very much, everybody, for being here, taking your time today. I think that this was very productive as a way to get organized and get things going. I think we can also recognize that there are a lot of issues that we have the ability to be able to influence positively to help small businesses in the Commonwealth. And I know that I have some follow-up items that I need to get to everyone, and I'll work with staff to do that. At this time, though, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. We are so adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.